but music seems to always be kind of the last bastion that gets affected, or I guess brought to the surface and called out.
Yeah.
How is that people can be so contradictory on their passion and belief and what's right and what's wrong, but still be able to consume things like this with really no question?
That's a really hard one for me to wrap my head around, and I have to say, as much as I study human
Hmm.
behavior and the aberrations sometimes that you see, that's one that makes no sense to me. And there have always been, certainly when I was growing up, there have been certain kinds of music that I just found it offensive.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people like us, that just can't hear about rape in songs being celebrated and think that that's cool. And, I'm trying to think back when my kids were teenagers, if they ever listened to music like that. I don't think so. If they did, they sure didn't listen to it at home or around me. And if they had, I would have
Hmm.
explained why that's not a healthy thing to do.
Sure. It's just so prevalent and still is. I mean, to this
Yeah.
day, in so many of these lyrics, that's what I think makes most of this whole case. I mean, it's just right in front of us, and
Yeah.
how did we all look the other way? Uh,
Yeah.
and it seems. I mean, is it because music affects us in different ways than other forms of entertainment and other arts, and we connect with it differently, not even necessarily lyrically sometimes, but on a
Yeah.
different level. And it's something that gets so ingrained in us. It's like today. There's some people who will not listen to Michael Jackson. There's some people who will not
Yeah.
listen to R. Kelly. Great. I mean, that's fine. And some people can say, I can separate the two. I can separate,
Hmm.
this music represents more of a piece of my life in time
Hmm.
where I was there than what that music, I guess, is, or who's behind it. And what's your thoughts on that when there people are sometimes able to separate the two and sometimes able to not?
I think a lot of people think that they separate it,
Mhm,
but I'm of a mind that everything that we're exposed to affects us subliminally.
mhm.
And even if we're not aware that it's affecting our attitudes, even if we're saying, I don't even know what the lyrics are, and maybe there's a certain group of people that really tune the lyrics out very effectively. But I still question it. I don't think it's good for anybody. I'm that way on movies too. There's just certain kinds of things normalized in film that particularly for younger kids, and teenagers, I don't think it's healthy. And
Yeah.
so we live again in a culture that accepts a lot of strange stuff that I would say is not growth oriented. It's not making people better people, but we do tend to accept it.
I guess, I mean, ultimately, we're in a free society. It's an individual choice of what anybody wants to do. But after R. Kelly's allegations came out, suddenly, nobody's playing any R. Kelly music anymore.
Hmm.
When the Michael Jackson stuff has hit peaks and flows here and
Hmm.
there, though that gets pulled, and then slowly, history kind of it gets back
Yeah.
there, and then we're hearing R. Kelly again on the radio, and we're hearing Michael
Yeah.
Jackson again back on the radio. Um, is that acceptable? I mean, is this something where, as a society, we need to basically take these people and every memory of them and just, I mean, pretend they didn't exist, no longer play their music, no matter how impactful it may have been on someone's life, take the performer out of it and just go for that. Do we just erase that? I mean, or do we find some sort of peace with it and separate the two, or is that more of just an individual thing? I guess more so. The question would be from like a if it's being played on Sirius XM or a radio station or
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm not big generally overall on censorship, and so I wouldn't say remove it from the planet
Yeah.
or from the radio, but I do think it's important to have conversations, just
Hmm.
like you're doing right now, about what is the impact of this, and is this something that we should stop and think about, and encourage kids to stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Encourage them to be thoughtful and analyze all this. There are people I grew up watching Woody Allen movies, and I always loved Woody Allen.
Hmm.
And I would never say at this point that we should remove his films. I think some of them were just masterful.
Hmm.
But I have to say, I don't feel the same way.
Hmm.
And I'll still watch one occasionally, but it hits me differently than it
Sure.
used to since everything came out that presented him in a less favorable light.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting with very creative type individuals, and certainly not every creative individual, but where we see behavior like this, and they have a piece of them that they've given society that has been very beneficial. Um,
Yeah.
their music, whatever it might be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to argue. I mean, are the Diddy songs beneficial to society? I don't know. A lot of people had fun listening to them. I guess we could say
Yeah.
that it certainly was a soundtrack to people's lives at certain points. If you're living out the lyrics of the song, that may be a totally different thing,
Right.
depending on what end of the lyric you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, but they are able to contribute uh, some, like, we'll just call it good over here, but then a lot of bad over here. Why is that we see that in such almost like genius level creatives in the world, where there seems to be that individual has a lot of issues blurring the lines between acceptable and unacceptable
My guess is that it's probably a fairly common trait where people can compartmentalize and have a side that they don't share publicly. I can say I see a lot of that, the hidden side of people. But it may be that when people gain a certain wealth and status, that's when they really push the envelope and they take advantage of it. And certainly if Diddy did not have the status that he's had and the wealth that he's had, he would have gotten caught a long time ago.
behavior. 120 new ones in a day.
Mm,
It's and again, we are just scraping the surface here. I think we are just at the beginning of 30 years of this type of behavior, where uh, you know almost one night would take one person down. I think with some of the stuff that he's done,
yeah,
and we're
yeah,
talking decades of
yeah.
it.
He would have gotten busted a long time ago.
It's going to be very fascinating to watch and see where this
Mhm.
goes and why it was able to thrive. I think that's a
Yeah,
big question that we're going to be
a
taking.
lot of enabling going on.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.